Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? I tried to start a minute early to thinking, we'll get people going and started a minute earlier so that everybody could be a part of the conversation. Anyway, good morning. It is Thursday, August 3rd. Love the month of August. I don't know why, but I always have. So it's really good to see everybody here. Good morning, Taro. Good morning, Jean. Good morning, Veronique. It's so nice to have you here this morning. So we're talking today. So actually, let me go to this. For those of you who don't know, hi, Chelsea. This is Smart Start, and it's a way of starting your day. Good morning, Magda. I'd like to say hello to everybody for a few seconds before we start. Good morning, Stephanie. Nice to see you here again today. So Smart Start is a way of starting your day or ending your day, because we have a lot of viewers from around the world. And good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Zach. And so it's a way of starting your day, ending your day, the middle of the day, whatever it is, with a piece of art that you look at and you bring to it what you bring to it. I will give you information about it just as a way of putting it in context, but what you bring to it is what's important. What you see in the art is what is very important. And when you tell me what you see, that kind of changes the way I look at it. It doesn't have to be art historically correct. That's not the purpose of this. We can all look up dates. We can all look up information. There's so much information out there. Khan Academy is a really great place to go to learn some art historical information and such, but that's not what this is about. This is about what you see, and then you kind of finding yourself, taking a moment in the day, taking a moment in the morning, take a breath. This is who you are, and then approaching your day from that part. And who you are is really great. Hi, Saeed. Hi, Maurice, Jerry. Good morning, Mark. So nice to see you. Good morning, Maggie. Nice to see you. So today, on Thursdays, we do a little bit of theory, because I think it's fun for everybody to do some theory, right? If you don't, good morning, Eunice. Especially, for those that are new to art history, so to speak. I always love doing it, so I think theory is a lot of fun. Good morning, Joseph. So I wanted to look at today. We talked a little bit about, on Science Tuesday, we talked about, if you remember, Alberti and perspective. Today I want to go back to the Renaissance, and I want to talk about foreshadowing. I want to talk about a technique that I really, when I came upon it as an art history student, it opened up a whole new world for me. And I hope it does for you if you don't know it. And if you know it, please, or if you don't know it, it doesn't matter. It's great to talk about again. So we have Duccio here, and Madonna and Child, Temper on Golden Wood, very early, 1290 to 1300. And he shows us a Madonna and Child, which is a ubiquitous symbol throughout the Renaissance, before that, in Gothic art, Byzantine art. Very early on, the Madonna and Child becomes the signature image at that time, especially as we're looking at Crusades and we're looking at spreading Christianity. But something that I find so unique in telling this story, and certainly this is early on, Duccio's 1290 to 1300, we're not seeing that perspective yet. So how do you tell this story of the birth of Christ and the life of Christ in one flat panel? Anybody know? How do you do it? Good morning, Jacob. Jacob will like this. Good morning, Kyle. So nice to have you all here. Where's my mother? Jacob, where's my mother? Okay, how do you do it? You foreshadow it. And how do you foreshadow it? You use some symbols. And so look at this Duccio. We have the Madonna looking at the child, but the Christ child, but he's not a baby in this. He kind of has an adult face, right? You see that, or an adult body. The proportions aren't correct for a child. But the way she is looking at him, and though she's holding him not quite like a baby, more as he is kind of enthroned, is that you're looking at this sorrow of hers that really is not necessarily appropriate for looking at a child. So we're foreshadowing her suffering because she will see him suffer. So we're foreshadowing the death of Christ. At the same time, although she's wearing a blue clothing, it's a very, very dark blue, almost a black. So let's go on. And you see how this really moves on in the Renaissance. It's one of my favorite images, and it's at the Met, so I get to see it all the time, and I see it quite a bit. Is that Heather Melvin? Heather, good morning. Heather interned for me this summer. Are you in college now, Heather? Did you leave? Yeah, is he wiping a tear from her face, Stephanie asks. You know what, Stephanie? Great eye. I feel like he is. I feel like that is exactly true. He is consoling her. Why is the baby Christ consoling his mother in a Madonna and child image? Because we're foreshadowing what is coming. Stephanie, that's brilliant. Okay, Victor, good morning. Victor de la Cruz. I have to shout out Victor de la Cruz, who has been so instrumental in helping me get my sound and everything going here. He's a viewer, and he watches me here, and he watches Cheddar, and he just kind of emailed me and texted me, and so now I have a whole new microphone, so I sound better because of Victor. So thank you, Victor. So nice to see you here. And look who's here with us. It's Phyllis McGinnis, my Madonna, my mother. And that's what Madonna means in Italian, is mother. Madonna. Good morning, Tom. How are you? Okay, wait, guys, I'm sorry. I have to stop this and say good morning to people. Good morning, David. Tom, you know what? I'm so glad you're here today because I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. So, yes, Stephanie, I do believe that's right, that this baby, this kind of little human, right? It's not really in baby proportions, is wiping a tear from his mother's face. So now and consoling her. Let's look at the Bellini. I mean, this is amazing. Good morning, Brenda. Yes, Tom, you must bow. Everybody has to say hello to Phyllis. That's right. And I was thinking, Jacob, if you could find a way, or somebody find a way, Victor, that I can, when my mother shows up on the feed, we can throw confetti or something virtually. Whoever can figure that out gets a gift. Okay? Gets a gift. Okay. So let's look at the Bellini. Tell me where you see the foreshadowing of this. Good morning, David. Can somebody tell me what you see in terms of the foreshadowing? We have the Madonna looking at more of a baby, like little cherub of a baby, the kind of the fleshy and chunky, which is so delicious in babies. And the head is not as proportionate as I think. But where do you see that this image also foreshadows the death of Christ? Somebody, come on, you know it. You know it. Yes, Chelsea! The black pillow. The black pillow, and also the slab, the parapet that the baby is on is a marble slab. And that kind of indicates that notion of death, right, on that marble slab on a sarcophagus. So let's see, what does Victor say? Baby's hand on the heart. Oh my goodness, Victor, I never even thought of that. See, that's why I love this so much, because now Victor just changed this image for me. That's exactly right. So we see the birth and death of Christ at the same time, or the foreshadowing of that. The sorrow of that, right? Let's go to here. Another one of my favorite artists, Fra Filippo Lippi. Fra because he was a priest. There were several, Fra Angelico, Fra Lippi. Adoration in the Forest, oil on poplar wood, early 1459. Tell me what you see. Why do you think? So this is a classic nativity scene, right? We're seeing a classic nativity scene. But there's something off about this nativity scene as just a classic scene. And I think for me, where's Tom? He's not answering today. I feel like the grass is rendered so darkly, almost a black. And again, that notion of mourning. And what, although she's just given birth to this baby, it feels like, again, we're not looking at just this joyous nativity, that there is something profound that is going to happen. Let's move on. One of my favorites. This is for Tom Estes this morning because we talked about perspective the other day. Piero della Francesca. Look at this piece. This is really monumental. Good morning, Raymond. Oh, good morning. Mariella Bisson is joining us today. Is Florence there, Mariella? Mariella is a phenomenal artist, an artist that I work with. I represent her work. It's just a thrill to work with her. She's a great artist. Glad she's on the thread. So, Mariella, we're talking about the foreshadowing in the Renaissance, the birth of Christ, the death of Christ. So this is a monumental piece, the Piero della Francesca. I want to read you a little bit about it, too. There is so much going on in here, so please, everybody, tell me what you see, okay? The work represents a sacred conversation with the Virgin enthroned and the sleeping child in the middle, surrounded by a host of angels and patrons. The child wears a necklace of deep red coral beads, a color which alludes to blood, a symbol of life and death, but also to the redemption brought by Christ. Coral was also used for teething and often worn by babies. I want to go to the apse end with a shell. You see the shell at on the top, from which an ostrich egg is hanging. The shell was a symbol of the new Venus. Mary, in fact, it's perpendicular to her head, of eternal beauty. According to a hypothesis, I love this part, the egg would be a pearl, and the shell would refer to the miracle of the virginal conception. The shell generates the pearl without any male intervention. The egg is generally considered a symbol of creation, and in particular, I'm going to skip that. The ostrich was, okay, that gets into the other family. So, but also this regeneration, of fertility. What I find so remarkable about this piece as well is that, okay, my mom's giving me the whole love thing. You can all read it. Thank you, Mom. I love you too. That's the best, right? That's the best, especially because we're talking about mothers and daughters. What I love about this image is that she has the baby splayed across her chest, her lap. And at first look, I don't think the coral looks like beads. Pathos. Yes, Tom, that's exactly right. I think it almost looks like blood. And I feel like that there's a lot of reverence here, but that this isn't just a baby, that this is also a scene, again, this foreshadowing. There's this pathos, as Tom points out. There's this sadness to this scene. And I think that so many times we've looked at art in the Renaissance and people have not realized when they're looking, they see a Madonna and child and they're not seeing this overwhelming mother and child view of the way one would expect a mother and child. And I feel like it's that pathos that comes through. Albrecht Dürer, Virgin and Child with St. Anne, really great piece, oil on linen. Look at this. I'm going to read this to you because it's from the Met. This haunting devotional painting depicts St. Anne, who was particularly venerated in Germany, with the Virgin and Child. The motif of the sleeping infant foreshadowing Christ's death was probably inspired by Bellini. whose work Dürer admired during his sojourn in Venice. Anne's hand on her daughter's shoulder takes on a conciliatory meaning. I think that that's a really great point. And her distant gaze suggests a premonition of Christ's passion. I love that. I just love that. And that's why I have this little art group I teach to kids, and I always tell them, quote unquote, looking is learning. Because when you look at this, I almost don't even have to read this to you, to them, to myself, to anybody. If you look, you will see, you will find it. And then you'll find yourself there too. And when I say finding yourself in art, I mean, it's like finding how you feel about it, what you think about it, what you bring to it. Good morning, Serena Buski. So good to see you, Serena. We are talking about the Renaissance, and we're talking about foreshadowing the birth and death of Christ. Masaccio. This is also another one for Tom Estes. Very much inspired by Brunelleschi's and Alberti's perspective. And I'm going to post another picture for you later about it, Tom. So look at this Masaccio. This is an amazing, amazing piece. And let's talk about this because I had notes and now I don't. Okay, I'm going to wing it. So everybody, good morning, Cameron. Everybody, please jump in. So we have the Madonna here. We have more of a baby. That there's more of a baby here. This baby is like that chunky kind of baby now, and it's not as, the older kind of child we saw before. So we have a chunkier baby, and he's eating grapes. So I find that interesting that he's eating grapes, because I think that foreshadows his death. I think that foreshadows the story of the wine and bread and the blood of Christ. And I think that when we read that into it, thank you, Saeed. So let me read what Mariella says. Hello, dear one. Thank you, Mariella. Thanks for addressing Christian imagery as an artistic terms. Being Jewish and child-free, I tend to resist Madonna and baby images. Mariella, okay, and Jean Faba, you are on this thread, so you need to answer to this. Mariella brings up a great point. And my husband, who is Italian and was brought up Catholic, is married to me and has a child, and he resists this imagery. And therefore, I do feel like, and Mariella brings up a great point, she's child-free and she's Jewish, and this imagery doesn't necessarily speak to her, and she's an artist. But, wait a minute, John Haber. It's almost as much as my mother entering the room. John Haber has entered the room. Everyone. John Haber is one of the best art critics that I know and art historians. And I give him a tagline, and that is, if John doesn't know it, it's not worth knowing. So John just wrote, I'm going to post John's blog for you all to read. You should be reading John's blog. Okay, so John, we're talking about foreshadowing the death and the birth of Christ. So please jump in. So wait. Thank you, Mr. Husband. Jean, and Mr. Husband loves your work, Mariella. Very sad to see that piece go yesterday, by the way. We'll get another one. So how do you come to this imagery? If you're not Christian, how do you come to this? John, I'd love you to speak to that. How do you come to this and feel connected to it or a part of it? And I have to tell you, you be you. Yeah, it's... when I was in Rome studying, I was there for a considerable amount of time. When I first got there, and I'm not religious, although I went to Catholic school and I wanted to be a nun. Okay, sorry. I'm not religious. But what I came to take away from all of this was not, when you go to Rome, the notion was in building Rome the way it is, the popes, all of the commissions, John can speak to that, Tom, everybody could speak to that, was this way of when people came there, you were so overwhelmed by the imagery that it was almost an instantaneous conversion to Christianity, an instantaneous conversion. Yeah, art was essentially a form of propaganda. That's exactly right for the church. The pesos was advice for people to respond to the Christian narrative on an emotional level. You are so right, Tom. And so when I went there and I started studying, my first thought was, I wish I felt this. I wish I felt this because this is incredible. But something deeper happened. And it wasn't that I became Christian or Catholic or more so or more religious. It's that I saw humanity in a different way. I saw this beauty, this incredible beauty, and the brilliance of artists. And even in a restricted environment, and they're being told what to paint and the commissioning and such, they find a voice that's beyond just the Christian iconography and symbolism. And I think it'd be interesting, Mariella, I would love for you to relook at this. And also I tell Jean, let's relook at this without thinking about not being Christian or not being a mother or being a mother. And can we find something else? So I want to show you this little piece. And I think you can. I do think that we can find meaning in this, even though it doesn't speak to us on a religious level. So look at this. So from that piece, this is a sarcophagus. This is a burial on the bottom here, typical of the time. And then we have the Madonna and the Christ child on that. And again, the birth of Christ foreshadowing the death of Christ. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. Let's see what Serena says. I think we are connected because this iconography is much older. It reaches way farther back, to matriarchal societies. I agree with that. John Haber speaks, let's say, that the really strange thing about the nativity in the forest is, of course, the forest. Don't have a lot of those in manger territory. John, as I'm reading yours, I want to go back to it, okay? Let's go back to it. Because I think that you're right. Now, be aware that some of the darkness you take for death is a darkening over time of a beautiful, lush, green forest. Yeah, I agree with you, John. That's why I was concerned about even suggesting it, with a painterly delicacy characterized of this artist and so unusual in his time. Again, the painting is teeming with life. But as for foreshadowing, there's also the darkness of dense woods, perhaps at night, but also a different kind of foreshadowing, as it's illuminated unnaturally from above. God and the cross have entered this nativity, making it also a painting of the Trinity, with the implications of a majesty above that of the baby in this world. Joseph is shunted off way to the side. Okay, do you see? Do you see now why I love John Haber? And John, I don't think I'm revealing anything about you but John is not Christian. John is Jewish. And you know what? Brilliant, John. And Manda, you typed quickly that you got all that in. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I was hoping that we would bring that up. We're seeing the Trinity. That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, John. I'm going to patch you in next time. I can patch people in now. Yeah. Okay. So this is all gearing up. I want you to know this show gears up for one huge moment. And that is the ultimate. Yeah, Stephanie, isn't he amazing? Yeah, that's John Haber. HaberArts.com. I want you to start reading. There'll be a test. This all gears up for this sculpture. Look at the Pietà, Michelangelo. And he does it in sculpture, not in paint. Huge slab of Carrara marble that he supposedly has said was the most perfect piece of marble he ever saw. Oh, my mother said, yay, John Haber. Yeah. Okay, so just so you know, my family is huge John Haber fans. My son and John Haber, it's like John Haber's one of his best friends. And of course the way I feel, and now my mother, so, and all of you. Okay, so Michelangelo is said to have said that this was the most perfect piece of marble that he ever worked with. Let's talk about pathos, Tom Estes. When I first saw this in Rome, I had been in Rome already for a while, and then it wasn't the first piece that I had gone to see. I was studying at the Irish college there. That's where we were staying, but it's with the American University. It was a great place to stay at this Irish college because it had this gorgeous in-ground pool outside, but it was also next to an insane asylum, and you would hear people screaming at night, and honestly, I felt at home. I really did. I loved it. Okay. So anyway, didn't love their suffering, but pathos. Let's look at this. We have an impossibly young. Before I show you that, I want to go before I say, look at this angle I found. So anyway, when I first see this in Rome, yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's just so beautiful, Maggie. I agree with you. When I first see this, I stand there. And it's behind glass now because in 1992, no, before that, I can't remember. Anyway, somebody came in and they took a hammer to the Madonna's arm and Jesus's leg. Okay. I'm standing at the glass and I just faint. Because at this time, I'm not a mother myself. And I just was so overwhelmed. It was that Stendhal experience that I'll put in the feed later about being so overwhelmed by beauty and art. And a lot of times I think he wrote it about Florence, but for me it happened in Rome, that you kind of lose yourself. And it was just this moment, and it just envelops you, even though it's behind glass, and it's this, you're enveloped into this. And it's just amazing, the emotion, the malleability of this stone, to see this drapery in marble, to witness this mother and her refinement and demeanor in this suffering. But also she's so young, impossibly young. And when you look at it, it's almost as if you see her with her child, and yet you're seeing her with her, when I say her child, she is with her child, her dead child, but you see her with her newborn child. And so you see the duality of both, and it's just brilliant. And it was a remarkable moment for me, and I always hearken back to it. So for Theory Thursday, I wanted to leave you with those thoughts about the Renaissance, about the foreshadowing. And I would love for those of you who don't look at quote unquote religious art to think about it as something other. Even if you're not a parent, if you're not a mother, you're not a father, what is it that we can find within this Renaissance? What is it that we can find that is universal to all? Because I think there is. I really do. I really feel like there's something is. And oh my God, my mother wants to know if I'm drinking the Earl Grey tea that she always buys me. I am. That's all I drink in the morning. Thank you, Mom. Yeah, it's part of the human experience, as Serena says. You can experience her pain and sorrow. I think that we can all experience the pain and sorrow of losing somebody, of nurturing someone, of life, of death, wherever you stand, whatever your personal experience is. And so I'm just really so grateful and just love these images so much. And in my own personal journey in art history, when I first saw it like this, the Bellini, it was the first piece I saw at the Met that I understood this kind of push and pull and this juxtaposition. And it felt like I was, like a whole new world opened up to me. So thank you all very, very much. Loved having you here, John Haber. Thank you so very, very much. and I'll post more. I have some images I'm going to post for you, Tom Estes, that has to do with Brunelleschi's and Alberti's perspective, with some work that we did today. And let's continue this conversation, and I will see you all tomorrow. Okay, have a great day, everybody. I'm heading to the Bronx Museum today because I'm going to cover them for a show for Cheddar tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Mwah. Thank you.